All right, you bastards, welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're wading into some seriously murky shit.
Right.
The kind of stuff that makes you wonder if those conspiracy nuts might be onto something. We're talking about Harold Wilson,
Harold Wilson.
a two-time British prime minister.
Yeah, a figure who seems to attract more than his fair share of controversy.
Right.
Prime minister in the 60s and 70s, a period when the Cold War was at its fucking peak.
Right.
And Britain was trying to find its place in a rapidly changing world.
Yeah, and this wasn't just your run-of-the-mill political mudslinging.
No.
We're talking accusations of Soviet ties,
Yeah.
whispers of coups, and enough shady shit to make even the most cynical bastard raise an eyebrow.
Definitely.
So let's cut the crap and get right into it.
Okay.
First up, the juiciest bit. The claim that Wilson was a goddamn communist spy.
Right.
Where the hell did this even come from?
Well, it all starts with this Soviet defector,
Okay.
Anatoly Golitsyn. This guy basically waltzes over to the West and drops this bombshell claiming that Wilson was a KGB puppet, a sleeper agent planted at the highest level of British government.
Hold up. Are we talking Manchurian candidate shit here?
Yeah, kinda.
Was Wilson brainwashed or something?
No, Golitsyn went even further,
Exactly.
suggesting that the KGB had a hand in the death of Hugh Gateskill,
Oh, wow.
a previous Labour Party leader, to clear the path for Wilson.
Jesus Christ. That's some next-level conspiracy shit.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
So did anyone actually buy into this defector's bullshit?
Well, you can bet your ass that MI5,
Britain's own spook.
Britain's own spooks, took it seriously.
Right.
They opened a file on Wilson under the ridiculously obvious codename Henry Worthington.
Henry Worthington.
Seriously, who the fuck comes up with these things?
Right.
And started digging around for any evidence to back up Golitsyn's claims.
So MI5 was spying on their own prime minister.
Yes, seems so.
Talk about a lack of trust.
Yeah.
What a bunch of paranoid bastards.
Well, it was the Cold War.
Did they find anything to suggest Wilson was sipping vodka with the Kremlin?
Nope. Nothing.
Really?
After years of snooping around, MI5 found absolutely zero evidence that Wilson was a Soviet agent.
So this Golitsyn bloke was full of shit.
It seems that way.
Probably just trying to make himself look important.
Right.
The typical defector song and dance.
Exactly.
But this wasn't the only accusation of communist shenanigans swirling around, was it?
No, not by a long shot.
Okay.
Two Czechoslovakian defectors,
Okay.
Josef Frolik and František August,
Oh, like an August.
joined the party, providing MI5 with a list of supposed communist infiltrators within the Labor Party. It was like a bad spy movie. Everyone was suspects.
So did MI5 go on a witch hunt?
Well,
Rounding up every Labor politician who looked a bit too cozy with Moscow?
they certainly investigated the claims, but again, they found no concrete evidence to support these accusations.
So another swing and a miss.
Yeah, but the damage was done. These allegations, even though unfounded, created an atmosphere of suspicion and mistrust around Wilson, particularly from those who already saw him as a dangerous lefty.
Right, so we've got a prime minister battling Cold War paranoia and accusations of being a communist stooge.
That's a tough spot to be in.
Sounds like a recipe for some serious political drama.
Definitely.
But this is just the tip of the iceberg, right?
Oh, yeah?
There were actual plots to get rid of Wilson, weren't there?
Things get a lot more interesting.
Okay, spill the beans.
We're talking about actual plans to kick Wilson out of office, some of which sound like they were ripped straight out of a bad spy flick.
Give me the good stuff.
One particularly bizarre incident involved Cecil King,
Cecil King.
a media mogul,
Okay.
and Lord Mountbatten,
Mountbatten.
Prince Charles's great-uncle.
Wait, a media mogul and a royal?
Yeah, an unlikely pairing.
This is some high-level shit.
It is.
What the hell were they plotting?
Well, King was deeply concerned about the state of Britain under Wilson's leadership.
Okay.
He felt the country was going to the dogs,
Go to the dogs.
and that drastic action was needed to save it.
Yeah.
His solution,
Yeah.
a good old-fashioned coup.
A fucking two.
Yeah, he was serious.
Yes.
Thought it was the only way to fix things.
Were they planning to storm Parliament with pitchforks and torches?
Not quite that dramatic.
Okay.
King, being a media man,
Right.
wanted to use his influence to destabilize the government, create chaos,
Okay.
and then sweep in with Lord Mountbatten as the head of a new, more competent administration.
So basically install Mountbatten as the new PM.
That's the plan.
What a power grab.
Is a bold move.
So did Mountbatten go along with this bonkers plan?
Well, King arranged a meeting with Mountbatten, bringing along journalist Hugh Cudlip,
Cudlip.
and the government's chief scientific advisor, Solly Zuckerman.
To lay out his grand
Right. So a real meeting of the minds.
It didn't go as planned.
Zuckerman immediately called King out on his bullshit.
Good for him.
Labeling it treason and storming out of the meeting.
I bet that was awkward.
It was.
So what about Mountbatten?
Mountbatten, to his credit, also saw the insanity of it all.
Thank God.
And dismissed King's plan as utterly ludicrous.
So this King bloke just slunk away with his tail between his legs after that?
Not exactly. King was a stubborn bastard.
Oh, boy.
Driven by his own ego and a misguided sense of patriotism.
What a prick.
He decided to go rogue.
Oh, shit.
Using his own newspaper.
Okay.
The Daily Mirror, to attack Wilson and call for his removal.
What a dick move.
He published a front-page article bashing Wilson and essentially advocating for some extra parliamentary action.
Extra parliamentary action?
Basically any means necessary to get rid of him.
So he basically tried to manipulate public opinion against Wilson using his own newspaper.
That was his strategy.
Did it work?
No, it backfired spectacularly.
How so?
The board of King's company was furious.
Right.
Realizing he'd abused his position and potentially jeopardized the entire company.
Yeah, that'll do it.
They demanded his resignation.
Karma's a bitch, ain't it?
It can be.
So this whole 1968 plot seems like it was more of a temper tantrum from a power-hungry media mogul than a genuine, widespread conspiracy.
It does seem that way.
What's next on the Wilson conspiracy hit list?
Well, in the mid-70s, things get even more interesting.
Oh, really?
Wilson himself claimed that there weren't just one, but two plots against him during his time in office.
Two plots?
One in the late 60s and another in the mid-70s.
Okay.
He was convinced that certain elements within the military and MI5 were working to undermine him and maybe even force him out of office.
Hold the fucking phone.
This is where it gets really wild.
The Prime Minister himself is claiming he's the target of a conspiracy.
He was convinced of it.
This shit just got real.
It did.
So what exactly was Wilson claiming?
According to Wilson, these alleged plots involved plans to install Mountbatten.
Mountbatten again.
Yes, him again as a temporary prime minister.
Wow.
He even claimed that former military leaders were amassing private armies.
Yeah, the army.
Getting ready for some kind of wholesale domestic liquidation.
Holy shit.
It's a chilling thought.
Private armies and whispers of liquidation.
Yeah, it sounds like something out of a Cold War thriller.
This is some John le Carre shit.
It really is.
Was Wilson just being paranoid, or was there something truly sinister going on?
It's hard to say for sure.
Right.
Wilson was under immense pressure at the time.
I can imagine.
The economy was in the toilet.
Okay.
There were strikes and social unrest everywhere you looked.
Yeah.
And he was facing opposition from both within his own party and from the opposition.
So maybe the stress was getting to him.
It's possible.
Making him see enemies lurking in every shadow.
Could be.
But you're saying there were some strange incidents that happened, right?
There were some genuinely strange incidents that fueled these fears.
Like what?
In 1974, for example, the Army suddenly decided to occupy Heathrow Airport.
Heathrow?
Without even bothering to inform the Prime Minister's office.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it was a strange move.
The Army just rolled into Heathrow unannounced.
They did.
What was their excuse for that little stunt?
They claimed it was a training exercise.
A training exercise.
You know, just preparing for potential IRA terrorist attacks. But the lack of communication with Downing Street, especially given the already tense political climate, was a major red flag.
It sounds suspicious as fuck.
It was a pretty ballsy move, to say the least.
Yeah, I bet it was.
If you're the Prime Minister and you see the Army making moves without telling you, you'd be shitting bricks thinking coup, right?
You're goddamn right I would.
Exactly. Wilson saw it as a blatant power play.
Right.
A warning from the military that they were not afraid to flex their muscles and that he shouldn't take their loyalty for granted.
This is some crazy shit.
It is a fascinating story.
So were there any actual ringleaders identified in these alleged plots? Any Bond villains stroking a white cat and plotting Wilson's downfall?
The name that keeps popping up like a bad penny is Lord Mountbatten.
Mountbatten again.
Seriously.
The Queen's cousin.
It's strange, isn't it?
What the hell was his motive?
Some believe that Mountbatten, despite his royal connections, was a deeply conservative figure who saw Wilson's left-leaning government as a threat to the established order of Britain.
Right, so the old guard trying to protect their power and privilege?
Exactly, a classic power struggle.
But are we talking about actual concrete evidence of a coup?
It's hard to say.
Or just whispers and speculation?
This BBC program,
Which one?
called The Plot Against Harold Wilson, which aired back in 2006, featured interviews with several key figures from the time who backed up Wilson's claims.
Interesting.
And pointed the finger squarely at Mountbatten as a central figure in these alleged plots.
So this BBC program is saying Mountbatten was the mastermind.
That's what some of the interviewees claimed.
Wow, this is getting juicy.
It is.
But what about MI5?
Well, this BBC program also revealed that Wilson, during his time in office, felt like he didn't fully know what was going on regarding security matters.
Right.
And that he was being deliberately kept in the dark.
That's shady as fuck.
It is?
What else did this BBC expose dig up?
It gets even juicier.
Okay, hear me.
The program also delved into some serious allegations made by a former MI5 officer named Peter Wright.
Peter Wright.
Peter Wright.
Ah, shit, MI5 is back in the picture.
They always seem to be lurking in the shadows.
What did this Wright fella have to say?
Wright claimed that there was a group within MI5 that was actively trying to discredit Wilson and sabotage his government.
So MI5 was playing dirty.
It seems that way.
Sounds like something straight out of a spy novel.
It does, doesn't it?
What was their end game?
According to Wright, their goal was to force Wilson out of office.
By any means necessary.
By any means necessary.
Wow.
He even claimed there was a plan codenamed Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange.
To leak sensitive information about Wilson and his Labor Party pals to journalists who were sympathetic to the conservative cause.
Clockwork Orange.
I know, right?
Seriously, who comes up with these code names?
Beats me.
Were they just trying to swing the next election, or did they have something more drastic in mind?
It's unclear how far they were willing to go.
Okay.
Wright claimed the plan was eventually scrapped because he refused to cooperate.
So he was a whistleblower of sorts.
You could say that.
But his allegations added fuel to the fire.
He did.
And raised serious questions about how deeply MI5 was meddling in domestic politics.
For sure.
So we've got shady media moguls.
Right.
Disgruntled military leaders, and now rogue MI5 agents, all potentially gunning for Wilson.
It's a lot of enemies.
This is one hell of a conspiracy web.
It is.
And the fact that these allegations came from such diverse sources, including Wilson himself, makes it hard to dismiss them entirely.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not like some tinfoil hat-wearing nutjob is making this shit up.
No, these are serious allegations.
We've got credible people claiming some seriously fucked up things.
That's true.
So with all these claims swirling around,
right,
how did the public react?
It's tough to gauge public opinion back then.
Did they believe Wilson was being targeted?
The Cold War was in full swing, and fear of communism was rampant.
Right.
Some people probably believed the allegations against Wilson.
Okay.
While others might have seen it as a smear campaign by his political opponents.
Right. The good old Red Scare tactic.
Exactly.
Anyone slightly left-leaning was a communist in the eyes of some.
That's right.
But let's be real. Some of this stuff sounds pretty far-fetched.
Sure.
Were there any attempts to debunk these claims?
Yes, there were.
And separate fact from fiction?
Christopher Andrew, the official historian for MI5, concluded that there was no evidence to support the allegations of a coordinated plot against Wilson.
So the MI5 historian saying Wilson was just being paranoid.
That was his conclusion?
Case closed.
Not quite.
Oh, come on.
Andrew's conclusions have been challenged by other historians and researchers who argue that he downplayed the significance of the allegations and the potential threat to Wilson's government.
So they're saying Andrew was covering for MI5.
They believe he might have been protecting the reputation of the agency.
What evidence do they have to support their claims?
They point to the bugging of 10 Downing Street.
Wait, they were bugging 10 Downing Street?
Yes, it was revealed years later.
Are we talking Watergate-level shit here?
It was a major scandal.
So they were spying on their own government?
The bugging operation was authorized by Prime Minister Harold Macmillan back in 1963, following the Profumo affair.
Okay.
A sex scandal that rocked the British government.
A sex scandal.
The bugs were supposedly installed to prevent future leaks and security breaches.
So they were spying on their own people to prevent leaks.
That was the justification.
What the fuck?
Did Wilson even know about this? It's unclear whether Wilson or his successor, Edward Heath, were aware of the bugging operation.
So they might have been completely in the dark.
It's possible.
When were these bugs finally removed?
The bugs were finally removed in 1977 on the orders of Prime Minister James Callaghan. Callaghan.
This is messed up.
It is a controversial chapter in British history.
So MI5 was spying on its own prime minister.
It seems so.
And then they claimed there was no plot against him.
It does raise
That's
questions.
like a load of bullshit to me.
It's certainly suspicious.
So, where does this leave us?
It's a complex question.
Was Wilson a victim of Cold War paranoia?
It's possible.
Targeted by rogue elements within the establishment?
It's a theory.
Or was he just a paranoid politician seeing enemies everywhere?
It's hard to say for sure.
Right, it's like one of those jigsaw puzzles where you've got most of the pieces,
Yeah,
but some are still missing, so you can never see the full picture.
exactly.
Frustrating as hell.
It is a mystery that may never be fully solved.
So what's your take on all of this?
The Harold Wilson saga remains a fascinating case study in political intrigue and the murky world of intelligence operations.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even in democracies,
Yeah.
power can be a dangerous game.
Right.
And those in positions of authority are not always who they seem.
Damn right.
So what do you think?
I don't know what to think anymore.
Were the plots against Wilson real?
It's hard to say.
Or were they just figments of his imagination?
I think the truth lies somewhere in between.
That's a fair assessment.
Wilson was undoubtedly under immense pressure and scrutiny.
He was.
And there were definitely individuals and groups who opposed him vehemently.
Yes.
And might have been willing to take extreme measures to get rid of him.
It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Right, so a perfect storm of political instability,
Yeah.
Cold War anxieties,
Mhm.
and some seriously shady characters lurking in the shadows.
It was a turbulent time.
No wonder Wilson felt like everyone was out to get him.
It's understandable given the circumstances.
This has been one hell of a deep dive so far.
It has been a fascinating discussion.
Filled with more twists and turns than a goddamn spy thriller.
It's a story that keeps you guessing.
All right, you bastards. Bladder's emptied and ready for more. Let's get back to this fucked up MI5 shit. So we're talking about Clockwork Orange, this alleged plan to smear Wilson. What kind of dirty tricks were these MI5 blokes supposedly up to?
Well, if we believe Peter Wright, it involves spreading disinformation about Wilson and his Labor Party cronies, trying to make them look like communist sympathizers or even Soviet puppets.
Right.
They allegedly leaked information to journalists, whispered rumors in the right ears, and generally tried to create an atmosphere of fear and suspicion around Wilson.
Sounds like classic Cold War propaganda bullshit.
It does have that feel, doesn't it?
Were they trying to manipulate elections or something?
That seems to have been the goal. They wanted to paint Wilson and Labor as soft on communism, hoping to sway voters towards the conservatives. Remember, this was the peak of the Cold War, and the fear of the Reds was a powerful weapon.
Yeah, those were some paranoid times. But hold on, wasn't there some talk about Wilson having ties to the IRA? That's a whole different kettle of fish.
Ah, yes, that was another rumor circulating at the time. Some within MI5 apparently tried to link Wilson to the IRA, portraying him as a sympathizer or even suggesting he was secretly supporting them. This was particularly damaging given the escalating violence in Northern Ireland at the time.
Damn, talk about playing dirty. So was there any truth to these IRA rumors?
Absolutely not. No evidence has ever emerged to support any connection between Wilson and the IRA. It seems to have been pure fabrication, a way to further discredit him and undermine his government.
So MI5 was just throwing shit at the wall and hoping something would stick. What a bunch of cunts.
Their actions, if true, were a gross abuse of power and a serious threat to democratic processes.
Right, this wasn't just about political maneuvering. It was about using fear and lies to manipulate the public and potentially even influence the outcome of elections.
Exactly. The allegations against MI5, if true, raise profound questions about the role of intelligence agencies in a democratic society and the importance of accountability and oversight.
So, with all this shady shit going down, did anyone ever hold MI5 accountable? Did anyone get in trouble for these Clockwork Orange shenanigans?
Sadly, no. The allegations remain largely unproven, and no one has ever been officially charged or punished for any involvement in the alleged plot.
So they got away with it. That's fucked up.
It does highlight the difficulty of investigating and prosecuting intelligence agencies, especially when their operations are shrouded in secrecy and they have the power to classify information and protect their own.
Right, they're like the bloody mafia operating in the shadows and covering their own asses.
The lack of transparency and accountability surrounding these events is definitely concerning. It erodes public trust in institutions and fuels suspicion that there's a deeper hidden truth that we're not being told.
Yeah, this whole Wilson saga leaves a bad taste in your mouth. You've got this prime minister twice elected by the people, potentially being targeted by shadowy forces within his own government. It's enough to make you wonder who's really pulling the strings.
It's a story that raises important questions about the nature of power, the potential for abuse within intelligence agencies, and the importance of a vigilant and informed public.
Damn right. So what's the takeaway here? Should we all be looking over our shoulders worried that MI5 is plotting against us?
I wouldn't go that far, but I think it's crucial to be aware of the potential for abuses of power, to question official narratives, and to demand transparency and accountability from those in positions of authority.
Well said. Knowledge is power, as they say. All right, you lot. That's Harold Wilson and the alleged plots against him. A tale of Cold War paranoia, political machinations, and some seriously shady characters.
It's a story that reminds us that even in democracies, things aren't always as they seem. Power can be seductive and dangerous, and those who wield it are not always on the side of the people.
Right on, any. Stay informed, stay skeptical, and if you see any shady blokes in trench coats lurking around, run like hell. Until next time, you beautiful bastards, stay safe and keep questioning everything. All right, you bastards, we're back and ready to wrap up this deep dive into the Harold Wilson conspiracy shit show. It's mind-blowing how much shady shit was going on behind the scenes during the Cold War.
It really is. The Wilson case highlights just how murky the world of intelligence and politics can be, especially when you throw in the paranoia of the Cold War. It's a reminder that power, whether it's wielded by politicians or spies, can be a dangerous and seductive thing.
Damn straight. Before the break, we were talking about MI5's alleged dirty tricks campaign against Wilson, codenamed Clockwork Orange. It sounds like something straight out of a spy novel. Can you walk us through some of the specific tactics they allegedly used?
Sure. If we believe Peter Wright's account, MI5 agents were engaging in a range of underhanded activities, from spreading disinformation to leaking damaging information to the press. They were essentially trying to manipulate public opinion and create an atmosphere of distrust around Wilson.
So, classic smear campaign tactics. Were they just trying to make Wilson look bad, or did they have a more specific agenda?
Well, one of their main goals seems to have been to portray Wilson and the Labor Party as weak on communism, hoping to sway voters towards the conservatives. Remember, this was the height of the Cold War, and the fear of communist infiltration was a powerful political weapon.
Yeah, the Red Scare was a real thing. Play on people's fears to achieve political objectives, classic dirty politics. But it wasn't just about smearing Wilson as a communist, was it? There were also rumors about him being connected to the IRA, which, as we know, was a whole different can of worms.
Absolutely. MI5 apparently tried to link Wilson to the IRA, suggesting he was sympathetic to their cause or even secretly supporting them. This was particularly damaging given the escalating violence in Northern Ireland at the time. Painting Wilson as soft on terrorism was a powerful way to undermine his authority and make him look unfit to lead.
Fuck me. They were really pulling out all the stops to discredit him. It's like they were throwing everything at the wall and hoping something would stick. But was there any truth to these IRA rumors?
None whatsoever. There's absolutely no evidence to support any connection between Wilson and the IRA. It seems to have been a complete fabrication, a cynical attempt to exploit the public's fear of terrorism for political gain.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
These MI5 bastards were playing a dangerous game. They were undermining democracy itself by trying to manipulate public opinion and potentially influence the outcome of elections. It's a good thing they were eventually called out on their bullshit.
Well, that's the problem. They were never truly held accountable for their actions. The allegations against MI5 remain largely unproven, and no one has ever faced any real consequences for their involvement in the alleged plot against Wilson.
So they got away with it.
God.
Fucked up.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how many other shady operations they were involved in that we'll never know about.
It's a sobering thought. This case highlights the difficulty of holding intelligence agencies accountable, especially when they operate in secrecy and have the power to classify information and protect their own.
Yeah, they're a law unto themselves. It's like trying to nail jelly to a wall.
The lack of transparency and accountability surrounding these events is a real concern. It erodes public trust in institutions and creates a climate of suspicion where people start to believe that the truth is always being hidden from them.
Right. And when people lose faith in their institutions, that's when things start to get really fucked up. So what's the lesson here? Should we all be looking over our shoulders worried that MI5 is spying on us and plotting against us?
I wouldn't say that, but it's crucial to be aware of the potential for abuses of power, to question official narratives, and to demand transparency and accountability from those in positions of authority. We can't just blindly trust that those in power are always acting in our best interests.
Well said. Knowledge is power and all that jazz.
Yeah.
All right, Eula, that wraps up our deep dive into Harold Wilson and the alleged plots against him, a tale of Cold War paranoia, political backstabbing, and some seriously shady characters.
It's a story that reminds us that things are not always as they seem, that power can corrupt, and that even in democracies we need to be vigilant in defending our freedoms and holding those in power accountable.
Right on. Stay informed, Stay skeptical. And if you see any blokes in trench coats lurking around, run like hell. Until next time, you beautiful bastards, stay safe and keep questioning everything.